What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to attempt to sort of articulate why I think the MrBeast employee Chris turning into a woman is a much bigger deal than you may think initially, right? So some people might be, scrolling through their Twitter and they see like, oh, MrBeast is, the friend or whatever it might be is now a girl. Okay, like I guess these kids these days are doing that, right? Well, I think you'd be mistaken to do that, especially in the case that you have children or are going to have children, because MrBeast, although I think he's like 25 years old or something, and I think he's overall, it seems to me that he's a good-hearted young man, there's one problem. So, Chris, okay, is someone that, I don't even know what he does there, but the point is he's a part of the whole thing. MrBeast has now taken to Twitter to essentially back his man. And I think he thinks he's being a good friend, and, that's fantastic if that's his intentions, which I do suspect that they are. However, there are kids, one of them being my 7-year-old son, who last night, right before bed, he asked me about this. I was pretty shocked to hear him say, did you see, he basically said, did you see, and he called him Kara, or maybe some other name, MrBeast's friend Kara, or whatever, is now, believes he's a girl or something. And I've explained to my son this stuff because I do think that it's inevitable that he's going to see it. And so in my specific scenario, I explained it to him beforehand that, hey, look, some people, they have, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't mean any disrespect, I told him, some people have a little bit of a mental problem where they think that they are actually a girl. It might be a boy thinks she's a girl thinks she's a boy, but that does happen. And we are Christians, and some of you may not like to hear that, but we're Christians, and we believe that is very sinful, right? So I explained that to my son, and so when he asked me about it, he actually said, can we pray for him, right? Because this guy thinks he's a girl. So we did. And so in my particular scenario, I'm not overly concerned, right? Because my son was prepared in all of the, I'm not a perfect dad, but sometimes I get it right. I think this is one of those times my son just understands it, and he comes at it from a point of empathy, not a point of like, you fucking disgusting, pig or whatever. It doesn't come from that point. It comes from just like, hey, let's pray for him that he repents and he gets, he kind of turns his life around or whatever. So that was the angle that my son had on it. But the thing that I'm concerned about is at large. MrBeast, I believe, is the most subscribed to YouTuber in the world, okay? And despite him being, I think, 25 years old, thereabouts, and I just made a video like a few weeks ago praising MrBeast, the good things that he does for society. I think he's a great kid. But here's the thing. His audience is not 25-year-olds. His audience, and I mean gigantic audience, is children, right? Basically out of all ages. I mean, it is literally all children, and I say children going up to like age 20 or whatever it might be. Even so, I've watched the video, with my son before on occasions, and I appreciated the fact that MrBeast had content that was not, so super mindless. Of course, it's not the most like educational content, but it wasn't what I perceived as anything harmful for my son. It was like, oh, cool, it's a fun little game. They're doing this, that, whatever. So no problem. The problem that I see now, and this happens a lot of times, to look at Project Veritas, right? When something gets to a certain size or a certain vulnerability, when something of significance gets to a certain point, they start looking for vulnerabilities in that thing. And what I mean the people that basically control the world. In this scenario, I think either one of two things happen. One, first world problems for Chris. He's just got too much money and time on his hands, and now he's maybe, maybe he thinks he's a girl, whatever, right? Second scenario is, I think, and this is what I think is more likely, somebody has somehow infiltrated, and again, like they did at Project Veritas, and convinced him that it would be best for him to do this, and this is why. Keep in mind, Chris, he has a child, and believe either a wife or a girlfriend that he's, I think, still with or was still with. Don't know how that's working out at this particular point, but Somehow, in my opinion, this is scenario 2, is that somebody's infiltrated it. Maybe they had some dirt on Chris. Maybe he did something horrible at one point or another, and they have evidence. They say, hey, we will release this if you don't do this. Maybe they just said, hey, we'll give you some cash if you do this. Maybe they, whatever it might have been. And so now Chris is taking, whatever hormones to become a woman. Okay. So even if you don't agree with either of those scenarios, let me tell you why it's an issue, and maybe a bigger one than you think. MrBeast, again, most popular potential YouTuber on earth, audience, all kids. MrBeast himself, I don't know if he's made a video about this in any way, but I do know that he tweeted something in support of Chris. And again, I think he thinks he's being a good friend. I would beg to differ, because if one of my friends walked up to me and said, hey, bro, I'm a girl now, I'd be like, look, bro, let's talk about this. Because I don't, we both know you were born with a dick and balls. You are a man, right? And we would have that conversation, and I would do it again with as much empathy as I possibly could. MrBeast has gone the opposite route, at least publicly. And, one could make the argument, well, he's just doing that to not lose, his fan base or whatever. And while I do understand that that's a possibility, or maybe he just doesn't want to be mean. Sometimes when you're friends with somebody, you need to tell them the blunt truth and not, something that's going to protect their feelings first. I think some things you got to say, all right, your feelings don't matter as much as me communicating to you what the reality is here. So MrBeast and publicly on Twitter said W YouTube when they were congratulating Chris for becoming a woman. And so my concern is this. Let's say Chris becomes, more active. I'm not sure how active he is in terms of the videos and stuff like that now. But let's say it becomes normalized in MrBeast videos. You're talking, and what I mean about it is specifically is him being a boy and becoming a girl. I think if that were to become a normalized thing, we're talking about billions of views this content would get. And where children should not be hearing about this stuff, they're trying to infiltrate the kids at schools already, and some governors and people in politics have tried to combat that in ways that they can. But if they can now get to the kids through the most popular YouTuber in the world and plant the seed in these kids' minds saying, hey, you might actually be born in the wrong body, you might be a girl. And in my opinion, it is a mental illness, as I mentioned. So if we're encouraging mental illnesses, and I've heard somebody say this before, if somebody has schizophrenia and you're saying nah, man, those voices that you're hearing are absolutely true, that you should listen to those voices and do what they say because, hey, embrace who you are, brother. That would be terrifying. And there's a reason they want this so bad. You can't reproduce. Boom, that solves a big problem for them in terms of for the people that think that the world's overpopulated. This is Satan's world. It promotes degeneracy. It encourages degeneracy. It encourages mental illness. And, to me, I find that to be a very dangerous and very uncomfortable thing, right? If you're an adult and you want to change, you want to do, whatever you think you have to do to change yourself from being a man to a woman, I would advise against it. But I'm not going to get mad at you. It's your life, man. Do what you got to do. God gave us free will for a reason. However, if you're MrBeast and you're about to start promoting that to your audience, the largest audience in the world of children, I think that could be a very serious issue, and it could make kids think about it, at least just think about it, that would have otherwise never thought about it at all. It might be the only thing that they see that says, hey, is it possible you were born in the wrong body? I could see, if we don't get controlled, I could see this becoming a thing later on where there's commercials about it all the time. Hey, are you sure you're a little boy? How do you know you're a little boy? What if there's 1 in 3 kids? I could see the shit coming. I don't know how MrBeast feels about it genuinely, but publicly he's come out in support of it. So there's that. But I think right now, MrBeast, and I'm serious, is one of the most important people in the world in terms of how our children grow and how their mental health is. And I would never, I'm the ultimate believer in personal responsibility and all that, but in this scenario, I do think MrBeast is in a unique position of, where do you go from here? because he could go the direction of never speaking about it again, which is fine with me. I think that'd be the best case scenario at this point, in terms of like him not getting canceled and all that too. Or he could go the direction of like making Chris into a big star, because now Chris is much more known. I didn't even know who Chris was. Chris is much more known than he was before. If he's making constant appearances and giving updates on his transition, you know, that's not going to be good for kids. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. I hope MrBeast does the right thing. And again, you know, no judgment. He is, you know, he's a young kid in a very powerful position. So, but it is important. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you're enjoying the content, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Peace out.